How's it going? Today we are talking about a topic that a lot of people have asked me about in the past. Little like tips and ways to navigate it. Playing fast. And if you play in a bluegrass band, that is something that you are very much required to do, whatever instrument you're playing. But when you're playing the bass, you got to keep it really consistent. It's got to be that heartbeat of the band. And typically, you actually don't want to, rush the beat or play ahead of the beat. I think of it like the bass is right in the center of the beat. I think we've talked about that before. If you're putting on a metronome, you want to play right with that metronome. And then other members of the band can kind of push or pull the beat, play ahead of it, or even maybe a little behind it. But usually when you're playing fast, there's kind of that riding a horse or, riding a train kind of motion where people are ahead of the beat. But someone has to be on it, so you know what ahead is, right? We're kind of the context instrument when we're playing fast. And then just as far as the mechanics of it, there's two different ways, or two different topics, I should say, that I really want to talk about and cover today. Both of them have to do with making a fast tempo feel slow. Because if you feel rushed or stressed or tight when you're playing fast, you're bound to drag. Like if you're playing like this, I was trying to tense up as much as I could there just to show I've seen people play like that, and you kind of want to go the opposite direction, The more relaxed you can be and the more you can almost make it feel like it's a slower tempo, the better. So two ways of doing that. One is with the right hand. If you notice in that little example I just played, I was only playing with my pointer finger, right? Which, works for me because I'm a seasoned professional. But I usually don't even do that, I play with my pointer finger and my middle finger. Pretty much back and forth, with some exceptions. And the other aspect that I recommend, looking into, and this other kind of topic I wanted to cover today, is the metronome. I believe I did a video back earlier this year called The Disappearing Metronome. And I did it with waltz time, 3/4 time. I'm going to do something similar today. I'm going to grab my handy metronome here. Again, I'm using the Time Guru app. It looks like this. I don't know if you can see the screen very well, but it's like a black screen with red markings. And what I recommend doing is put it at a fast tempo, right? So let's say 170. Move the bar on the bottom to get it to 170. And then you want to add extra notes on the top. The top left hand part of the screen says 1. So click that. Maybe let's do it 4 times. So you have 4 red 1s in a row. And then we're going to mute the second and fourth one by pressing the red 1s, the second and the fourth red 1s. So it'll sound like this. That's every other note we're going to be playing. So again, when you're practicing fast, opposed to having all those metronome clicks, which feels kind of stressed and rushed unnecessarily, I think, you want to get that disappearing metronome just a little bit. It's going to be consistent, and just have it on beats 1 and 3. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave this going. I'm now going to play the open G string with my pointer finger, and I'll play the open D string with my middle. And you can do a left hand mute if you want. Probably recommend the left hand mute. This is where I want everyone to start. Just get that consistent, stay in the center of the beat. If that's too fast for you, you can leave the settings the way they are and just slide that bar back to a slower tempo. Maybe I'd recommend 130 or 140 to start if 170 is out of your realm of possibility. And you can work up to 170. So that's kind of the basic technique of playing fast. Again, it feels a lot slower if you have the disappearing metronome, just beats 1 and 3 every other note, and you're using both your pointer and your middle. And this is kind of why I tell people to separate that right hand. Some people will pull with both fingers, which can work at a slower tempo, and you can pull a really nice tone. But I think when you get fast, I like having the ability to kind of switch. And you get your pointer and your middle separately, kind of like double the resources, right? Why not? So once you've mastered this, you can take a look at the exercise I have below. It's actually like pretty much a custom bass line for on my way back to the old home, which is a bluegrass standard. I'm sure some of you know it. And I pretty much just made it as simple as possible, so you could just focus on your finger techniques, as well as keeping that tempo consistent. So again, we're trying to make it feel slow. And while we are rotating our pointer and our middle, more or less, there's one exception to that rule. And that's when you're playing a string with your middle finger, let's say this open D, if the next note is on the string directly below it, which is the A string, play the middle finger again. It's this gravitational pull thing, right? Your middle finger, once you play through that D string, it's already resting on the A string. So open D to the C on the A string. That's the one exception, and that comes up actually quite a lot in this bass line. So on my way back to the old home, it's standard 1-4-1-5 bluegrass. I'm just going to play the bass line really slowly. I'll do it once just playing it, and then I'll do it once where I talk through what finger I'm playing where. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really more complicated than it may seem off the bat. So this might take a bit to get into your fingers, but it's okay. So again, every time I'm playing a string with my middle finger, if the following note's on the string directly below it, I'm playing it again with my middle finger. And it somehow works out really nicely, and you end up in the right place when it comes back around. So it's pointer, middle, pointer, middle, middle, pointer, middle, pointer, middle, middle, pointer, middle, 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 pointer, middle, pointer, middle, pointer, middle, middle, pointer, middle, pointer, middle, pointer, middle, pointer, middle, middle, pointer, middle, pointer. All right. I don't know how helpful that was, but it was an interesting exercise for me. Obviously, you could also just look at the bass line that I'm doing before. And also the sheet music. The M's are obviously middle, P's are pointer. Even if you can't read the sheet music, hopefully that helps. So I promise that, that kind of double or even triple middle finger sweeping technique is really helpful when you're playing fast. You get this gravitational pull that just kind of makes it seamless and makes it easier. It just makes sense, like why not go, you're already on that string with the middle. Play it with the middle and then come around with your pointer. It wouldn't make sense to just keep it, perfectly rotated every time, because there's other factors in the mix. So here, let me play this bass line with the metronome. So again, 170, every other note is being clicked. And here's the on my way back to the old tone bass line. Oh, actually, one more thing before I do this. At the very end of the bass line, you may notice that I did a little walk up, right? What's different about that walk up than maybe a walk up at a slower tempo? Again, trying to keep it slow, trying to keep it relaxed. Instead of playing, double the notes, whether you think of them as like eighth notes or quarter notes, like at a slower tempo, I might play, or even just something to give it a little extra push, little, extra rhythmic motion. At a fast tempo, I really think twice about that. The faster you go, the less that effective that is, and the messier it becomes. So there's just physically less space to put a bass line like that in, or a little fill like that in. So I'm, using the same rhythmic approach as I am the entire bass line, just using different notes, right? G, G, D, D, G, D, E, F sharp, G. Figure out whatever the length is, that you have. What's the amount of time you have to put a fill in? And instead of changing the rhythm, just change the notes. I promise it's really effective at a fast tempo. All right, so let me try this whole thing. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So those are some tricks to playing fast. Pointer middle separation, middle finger sweeps when you're going to the following string below it. Keeping the bass line really simple, not adding any extra rhythmic motion. Disappearing metronome trick. If you want to keep going with this, if you look back at that 3/4 time video, I actually, continued to remove clicks. So let's say you only want a click every 4 notes. It may even help you feel more relaxed, It's like a bigger phrase almost. Let's see if I can do this. It almost feels like, the phrases are longer when there's less metronome clicks. So you can really keep going with that. You can do every 8 notes, every 6 notes even could potentially work. I usually think of it in multiples, going from like every note, 2 notes, 4 notes, 8 notes, 16 notes, that kind of thing. So you can mess around with it. And if you have any questions about Time Guru, definitely just drop a line in the comments, or you can message me. It's a bit of a complicated app, but it's really, really helpful once you get used to it. And I'll drop the link again in the thread below this video. So those are some tips to playing fast, y'all. Again, if 170 is too fast, slow it down and you can get there eventually. And start with just the open G and D strings just to get that motion of pointer, middle, back and forth. And then you can tackle the bass line. So thanks, folks. I'll see you next time. Enjoy.